Hello, arty peoples, and welcome to another episode of Jerry's Live. My name is Emmy Klein, and I am your host this evening. And today I have a really fun kind of drawing challenge planned, which is going to be interesting because I have no idea what I'm drawing yet. So, before we jump into today's lesson, I did want to remind you that if you are interested in anything that I use throughout the show today, make sure you go to the website JerrysArtarama.com and type in today's class code. Now that is JL390, JL390, and that will bring up the teacher's cart when you type it into the search bar, and everything I'm using should be there so you can check it out that way. Now, let me explain kind of the premise of this challenge. So this is a challenge that I actually was given first when I was a teenager. My dad did this to me, and hopefully he's watching because I made him, I told him to. But this is something that actually is the reason why things started clicking for me and starting to really make me focus on drawing what I see and not what I think I know. Because whenever it comes to drawing realistically, or if you're trying to, kind of get a realism kind of feel to your drawings, you really do have to pay attention to details. And this is a fun little challenge that will force you to do that because you have no idea what it is that you're drawing until you get further along in the process. So, to explain how this works, you are going to need a buddy system. So I had Michaelia help me out here. So I had Michaelia grab an image. I have no idea what that is. I did give her a parameter to give me a lot of white space though, because we are on a time limit during this show. Question for all of you out there watching. Would you like to know what I'm drawing now, or would you like to be kept in the dark as well? And we'll give you the link to whatever it is that I'm drawing whenever we figure it out later on together. Put that in the chats in the comments and let me know which one you would like, and then we'll see if they can link the image for you guys to know. So Michaelia got the image, and what I did is I gridded out a piece of paper. I am using the Soho drawing pad. This is an 8x10. So I had Michaelia size the image to an 8x10 and then cut it up in 1-inch squares. This is my image. So now I have a grid that is 1-inch squares all over the place. And it's A through H at the top. And then I have a piece of tape over here next to my pad that has 1 through 10. So on the back of every single one of these little squares, Michaelia, very meticulously, and I very much appreciate this, wrote down the corresponding square that it goes to. Now, if you are interested in doing this and your friend is gridding this out and cutting up the image for you, highly recommend you actually write down what each square is before you start chopping it up. Really very helpful. Now, the other thing I do want to note is that you can use scissors to chop up your image. I actually prefer using a ruler and an X-Acto blade or a hobby knife, just because you can get very precise, very straight lines when you cut your image up. And that's kind of important because we are now going to be doing a grid drawing essentially. So I'm going to be taking those squares and matching them up where they go, and then just drawing what I see. Now I did do an example here where I had, and actually if we go to that overhead camera, I can show you my example square. So this was a square that I had from my image, and I actually chose this image so I knew kind of what I was working with already, and I chose very specific ones. But this was one of the squares, and if I flip it over, it says D8 on the back. So I go to my row D and then number 8, and then that is where I drew that square, right? I'm only drawing what I see in here, and from this right here, I have no idea what I was drawing. Granted, I knew what I was drawing, and if I were to go even further on this image, everything would make sense because you would eventually get the whole image drawn. So that's the idea of this challenge, right? So, start with a fresh grid here. I'm going to actually get started. How are we doing on our votes? Do they want to know what we're drawing, or do they want to be kept in the dark?
YouTube would like it now.
Okay. YouTube instant gratification. I appreciate that.
We're split on Facebook.
Ooh. How about this? We will put the link in the chats. If you want to know, click the link and then you can see the image. If you don't want to know, don't click it. Right? Eh?
Hopefully it won't show a preview.
Hopefully it doesn't show a preview, yeah. All right, so I'm going to be just using graphite. This is our Cezanne graphite set of, I believe, 12 pencils, and it goes all the way from 2H all the way up to 12B. This is going to be helpful because the higher in number I go on that B, the darker my graphite kind of marks are going to be. And then down here, it's going to be lighter because it's a harder graphite and it doesn't transfer as much. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to probably grab an HB, just something kind of in the middle there. This is actually, HB is very similar to like a number 2 pencil, if anybody's curious. And so far I have F3. So F3. Also, it's really good to know whether or not your numbers are across the top and your letters are across the top and your numbers are down the side, because we had a moment earlier where I was like, which way does it go? All right, and then Michaelia did write F3, so when I flip it over, that's the direction it should be, right? So right now I'm seeing a big white square with something just barely here. So that's all I'm gonna draw, F3. And if I want to, I can even just put it over here. And this is essentially just a pure white square. So that's all I need to do for that one. Just a little dot. Okay. B9 all the way down here. Okay, now this is good drawing, and actually what's kind of helpful is that if I am still trying to figure out how to get my drawing really accurate, I could just hold this up and kind of make little tick marks where I start seeing things. And then down here, I can do the same thing. It starts kind of there, and then over on this side, it goes here. And then it's like connect the dots, right? Where you can kind of connect that sort of drawing. Now this is kind of interesting because it looks like there's like a darkness on the outside of this, but it gets lighter here, but this is still darker than here, and this is still almost pure white. I'm going to call that pure white and leave it there because I can always darken it later, but it's easier than trying to lighten it, which I also have a variety of erasers over here. I have a kneaded eraser and an electric eraser that will erase really well once I actually start getting it to spin. So it erases really, really quickly. Now, I didn't also erase my grid lines at all. The kneaded eraser is really good, so like if you just kind of press it down and pick it up, it will lighten your grid lines, which is nice because then you don't have like a grid that you're kind of working against. All right, so do we have any questions about this process so far? I think it's pretty straightforward. If you do though, feel free to put your questions in the comments. All right, so I see this like darkness right here in this little spot here. Almost coming in that way, and then like it follows that line almost. And then it gets a little bit lighter, darker, and it's not crisp lines on the edge. It's kind of blurry. So I'm going to draw exactly that. And I'm not super worried about it. I am going to try and quickly draw as fast as I can because we do have 80 squares to get through tonight, which is why I'm curious if I can get this whole process done. Hopefully. And also it doesn't matter if you go across that grid line because your drawing is going to continue. The image continues. So it's not a huge deal if you go past it. So I'd say that's about right-ish, somewhere in there. Now, if you really want to, you can also grab some blending stumps and smooth things out, especially those edges that are smoother. and get some softness to it, which actually it kind of gets a little darker over here. So I'm going to use the graphite that's on my blending stump just to kind of smudge out some darkness just creeping up in that corner. So that one's done. Let's grab another one. All right. Ooh, this one's a little bit more detailed. E8. This looks like almost like a lid to something. Did I put that in the right spot? That's why I always double check. E8. Almost put that in the wrong spot. That's okay. All right, and then starts there. So it kind of goes down and over. If you ever need to know like the size comparison, you can always keep it lined up. So like the width of that is about that width, and then it kind of goes down. And it does look like a lid of some sort. I'm not gonna draw it precisely, but that's okay. With a weird shadow on top? I don't know. This back line almost disappears, but then there's that weird shadow. I'm guessing it's a shadow that's thrown on top of this because of the way that it's going on top of this object. Weird. Okay, and then it gets darker here, lighter as we go up, and then it's almost like this goes around. It gets darker there. Let's give it a little bit of a tone so I have something to kind of work with here. And then a little bit darker here because I can see a little bit of a shadow there. And then we're going to kind of smudge it out a little bit because I think the back of that got a little too dark. And if that happens, take your kneaded eraser and you can just kind of tap it wherever you need to lighten it. And it works perfectly. So I think, yeah, this should get darker down here. Does it look like the thing that I'm supposed to be drawing so far? Katie with the definitive. Do you know what I'm drawing? Did you look at it?
I'm not sure if you explained this, but how do you know you're doing it in the right orientation?
You have to communicate that with your friend. So, like, here's my next square, right? It could be turned any which way, right? If I flip it over, I read D7, like this, right? So if I just keep the top of this here, flip it over, that's the way that it goes. If you tell your friend to flip it any other which way, you have to just be consistent with it, okay? So D7, right? I'm gonna put it off to the side. That's really a complicated shape. So it's a very detailed little shape in there. All right, and then I'm gonna just mark here for the bottom of that. Again, I'm trying to be quick with this. Yeah, I think that's about where that goes. And then if I think that's where the edge of that is, and then it sort of goes out, back in, and then like a top of a bottle. Is this a wine glass? Am I drawing wine glasses?
No.
You guys know. This is the problem, they'll never tell me. Never tell. All right, and then this kind of does sort of the same thing. Now, when I am drawing things, if I'm not lining it up and like moving it like that, I'm just kind of keeping that same spot. Like if I'm looking at the edge of this right here, and I keep my eye on that spot, and I know that's where the edge of my line is, so I know it's in the right spot, right? If I'm not doing that, I'm also looking at, let me pull this up a little closer, the space between here, that negative space between the edge of that object and the edge of my line. I'm kind of trying to gauge how big that is So that's one of those things that if you start paying attention to just those weird shapes and breaking it down that way, you can get a lot more accuracy rather than being like, I'm drawing the bottom of a whatever that is. It's definitely glass. I can tell you that it's got to be glass. It has to be glass. I'm double checking myself here. No, I'm thinking I'm wrong because of the way that they're reacting, but I'm not sure. It feels like glass. All right, and then the edge of this, so there's like 3 circles here. This one definitely goes off towards the edge, almost loops back around there. This one goes almost to the edge of that other circle. Then the bottom of that line is completely lost. And then it's got like a little spot here. So when it comes to like these little shapes, I'm not thinking about the fact that it is glass. I'm just looking at the shapes. Just draw what you see, because I could be completely wrong. I don't know. Fun fact, the first time I ever had to do this project, like I said, my dad gave me this as a project as a teenager. And he told me to draw what I see in all the squares. I'm pretty sure they still have the image. I was drawing Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The first time she dies. Which was, I think...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. With like a weird vampire thing in the background. And I didn't realize it until I finished the image because I was like, what is that in the background? Because you just don't know. It's so dark. And I realized it was a vampire. And it was Buffy. We might have had some specific shows that we watched. Alright, so I'm not going to sit there and work on a ton of these details. I'm going to try and block them in quickly. Mostly because I don't want to get stuck on... If I were doing this at home, I would probably really sit there and focus on the details and try and get this as correct as possible. We are on a time crunch, so I'm going to quickly block in sort of what I see. And it's going to be messy. Be nice. I want to get as far on this project as possible. So there's like a weird circle here. It's dark. The edge is not that dark, but we're gonna leave it. Again, if I had all the time in the world, I would fix that, but it's pretty dark in there. And if you notice, I'm not throwing away my other squares. I'm just kind of leaving them above. If I were doing this on my own as well, I usually would leave those squares around or like in another jar that says finished. That way, if I ever need to go back and reference what I've already drawn, just to like, if I'm double second guessing myself or something, it's a nice little point of reference. Other than that one circle, most of this is all pretty dark. And I'm going to, again, call the background white. Right? Yeah. Except for this one little highlight that's right here. So what I love about kneaded erasers, you can actually pinch and push them into whatever shape that you need. And get into like those little weird spaces and get the shape that you need. Cool. So we're going to call that done. Almost knocked my jar off the table. Alright, next one. What on earth is that? E6. E6.
Bingo.
This is weird. I don't know what that is. What am I drawing, Michaela? Alright, so there's like a weird little triangle here that's pretty dark. And it looks like there's an edge of something that kind of comes up and connects. And then like goes up to about there. It's not perfectly in the corner, it's just below. And then this one goes to about here. And then I have to just draw the rest of it freehand. And put it above. So I can kind of gauge where those lines are together. Sort of goes out that way and then up and around. So it's like curved here and sort of a straight line that way. I think that's right. Yeah, and then this is around here. And they go up to meet that. Okay. There's a lot of weird details in this. Okay, so there's like a weird, sort of almost like the bottom of a circle here. Gets really dark on this side. Fades out. And then it's really dark on the other side of that. But it's lighter on the bottom. There's definitely almost like a line on the bottom of that sort of circle. And then there's like a weird semicircle bottom there. It's weird to try and describe shapes as you go. But it's all pretty dark, so we're just going to darken all of that, except for there's this weird, whatever that is. Almost looks like a baseball. That weird like stitching that's on a baseball, but it's, if this is a glass, I don't know what's going on there. Yes. Is that upside down?
The ABC order, I did it backwards.
No! Darn it. Okay. Is this where you were like, it's the other way around? Okay, so that is another thing that is good to know. When you flip your image, your ABC has to go backwards, otherwise everything is backwards. Okay, so we have to do all of these over again?
I say just leave those like they are and continue correctly from now on.
Okay, so
Let's have some misconstrued pixels in there.
some switches. How about that? Okay.
It's artistic choice.
Ah, this is how you come up with a very weird, wonky piece.
Yeah.
Thanks. And what's funny is that Michaela is a printmaker and should know if you flip your image like backwards.
We really didn't notice until this piece.
That's
We're
funny.
Like,
That's okay. That's okay. These things happen. And this is why it's also good to have your friend around. I'm going to just quickly finish whatever this is. Backwards. You know you're not living that down, right?
Yep.
This is the offensive part. All right. Yeah, but there's some kind of weird sort of circle thing here. This is why I also don't lose my pieces in case you are ever getting a little further in the image and it's just not matching up and you're like, what is going on? Yeah, it might be backwards. Double check with your friend. But that is funny. Is everybody in the comments like, what? Wait, hold on.
I don't think anyone else has necessarily noticed it.
YouTube changed their minds towards the end. Towards the end, they're like, okay, we actually want the mystery, so I'm not sure how many of them actually looked at it.
Ooh. I mean, you're allowed to change your mind, so. All right, well, I'm going to sort of leave that. There's some kind of like weird little divot here. Again, not being super precise with this because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. I'm going to honestly draw this as just a line. I know if it's that step, I really should take the time to like draw those little steps, but that's the kind of detail that will stop me from being able to actually finish this tonight while you guys are watching me. Now it does get lighter right here. There's like a general tone to the whole thing, except for on the edge of this one shape. So I'm gonna actually pinch my kneaded eraser into like a flat, sort of almost like a line. And then I'm gonna draw it along that edge just to lighten it a bit. And also erase the mistake that I just made. So, okay, I think that's good. We're going to redo our ABCs. And yes, I'm gonna have to start over here and go A, B, because I'm not gonna be able to go backwards. C, D, E,
But your numbers should still be right, so at least you should have one for you.
H. Yes, so these should honestly just be like, just slightly in the wrong spot. Okay.
They're just mirrored.
JK. All right, so now C5 should be here. This has got to be glass. It's got to be glass. Right? Give me the most complicated piece of glass image. Okay, so that's the only real edge I see, but like if I wanted to, I could draw. There's the bottom of this sort of circle. This dark shape starts there. That's where the bottom of that is. Oh, there's a lot of little shapes in here. I'm kind of just raise this up here and go with that. Sort of something like that. There's like a little bean shape kind of thing. It gets really dark. Now, it also has a highlight on the top of that, but it's not a very light highlight. It's still not as bright as like the pure white of the paper. Like even this lighter area right here, I'm definitely not seeing it as light as that. Again, I can always adjust it later on once I actually get my whole image together, but there's a weird line here too. Okay, then that goes up and around. Ooh, what is happening at the top here? It's almost like there's a line going across here. I'll sort of put that in. And then there's this weird dark area. It sort of gets dark over there. There's a lot of little shapes. All right. Put in this dark spot here. Kind of give it a whole tone. Kind of a mid-tone. And then get darker here. Now also, while I'm getting darker in some areas, I probably should be reaching for my softer leads. But I'm essentially panic drawing right now. All right, now the shadow that goes up around here is not quite to the edge that I can see here. It goes up and it gets wider as it goes down. And then there's a big bright highlight. But all this is kind of mid-tone, and I am going to grab a darker lead just to kind of help me push those darks. This actually does get quite dark in here. And then from this highlight area, kind of has, so there's that weird dark shape that goes up that way, but then it has a shape that's kind of thrown off, almost like this like weird oval that kind of comes up and down. And a little bit of a shaded there. Again, drawing this like weird trapezoid shape here. Get the whole thing in, darker. Huh, there's so many little shapes.
I feel like this should be the next mystery art box challenge.
Like if I can finish it in an hour.
No, but like bigger squares,
Bigger squares.
so you have less of them.
Okay.
But like a timer, so you have 1 minute per square.
Ooh. I kind of like that. That sounds really challenging.
And like maybe each box has to be a different medium.
I kind of like that.
Oh.
That'd be fun, right?
Okay. Let me know in the comments if you like that. Bigger squares for like a mystery art box challenge.
We could do a jar with the squares and a jar with the medium.
A jar with the squares
And
and
nobody's
jars.
gonna know what it looks like.
Yeah. It'd be kind of fun.
How much chaos do you guys want to see? There's like a little, I'm gonna sort of skip some of these shapes and get sort of the dark little spots, but then like move on, because I feel like I'm going to not finish this image if I don't. Meh. Sort of little spot there and a little spot there. Something like that, right? It's very messy, but it's there. Okay. It's already 6. Ooh, I love this square.
Yeah.
Did it. F4, so it's here. That one's just pure white. Okay, love this square too. F5. I need the lighter one. So this is F5. Okay, so this is the edge of this. Some kind of weird little notch thing. It's lighter at the top here, but it has this dark shape. Has a sharp edge right here and a sharp edge down here that almost goes to the corner. And then everything in between is dark. And then this is like a mid-tone. That's a mid-tone. Now also, if you are having a hard time trying to figure out what value you should be shooting for, it is also very helpful to have like a value scale next to you. Like if you just take your pencils and go from the lightest down to like say like a 10 step, essentially, like 10 levels of gradient kind of a thing. Love this. All right, is that a G? Looks like a 6. I'm pretty sure that's a G. Okay. I was like 63. Oh yes, D10. All right, so we might actually finish this in time. I'm gonna grab a couple more and just put them over here. All right, so A1 is blank. F10. Okay, here we go. B7. B7. Hold on, make sure this is lined up. B7. Okay, so we're here. I'm gonna just put a little tick mark here. Tick mark here. The rest is gonna have to be eyeballed. Okay, so sort of that shape, about that far down. Then it goes straight out that way. Again, this is kind of blurry, which is nice, so I don't have to worry too much about being precise. But I think that's about the right shape. Yeah, I'm gonna leave all of that bright white and then just darken everything else. Actually, let's say if I were to draw like a circle here, that's about where that line is. And then it goes up about that way. And then there's a little bit of a highlight there, but I'm going to just darken the whole thing until I get to it down here, and then I'll sort that out. Again, as long as you're in the right format, your image should line up so you can actually go over the edge a little bit. The edge of your square, not the edge of your actual image, because I just went over the edge of my image and now I have to fix it. Whoops. Okay, let's try that again. Alright, so this is still pretty dark. There's like a lighter area kind of right in here, but it's darker towards the edge of that. And this is almost pure black right here. And it's darker over here in the corner. It's darker here, and then there's like a weird lighter area right here where it has like a darker almost line here. All in just generic weird like little shapes. It goes all the way to the edge. Then it gets lighter again right here. So if I do that little space, and then there's like a weird, I'm bouncing back and forth between the lights and the dark. So like there's this weird shape here that if I just draw like straight lines, I know it's all blurry, I can kind of draw that in. And then goes to about here. And I'm looking at the space from the edge of that lighter shape to the edge of this whole shape. That's about the same kind of size. So all of this should be darker. So this is what I mean by just draw what you see, because if I had gotten this square first, I had no idea. Like, you have no idea what this is. I'm pretty sure it's glass of some sort, but again, I don't fully know. So if I start drawing what I think I'm seeing, odds are I'm going to get it wrong. This is all pretty light, but it is not pure white. Same thing with this. Okay, so there's that. Now again, if I wanted to, I can take this, blend out my edges, get it kind of blurry like it's supposed to, because those are not crispy edges, those are all blurry. But, okay. A5, oh that's a complicated, A5. Complicated shape, somewhere in here. All right, with my eraser. All right, so does anybody really, other than the people that are in the room with me here, does anybody else know what I'm drawing in the comments? Am I doing a good job? Because I don't know. Feels like I am? I don't know. So there's sort of like a square shape there. Same thing on this side. Then that dark line goes up and almost all the way across, but then it like kicks up that way and then up and over. Also, if anybody does get a chance to try this, please tag me in this, because I love this challenge. It is so fun and really, really difficult to I guess kind of mess it up, because you're literally just drawing little squares. Grid drawing, but secret.
I wish there was an app that would just do it for you. I was just looking to see if there was like a website or an app that you could.
That'll just divide up an image for you.
Or
That'd be
just
delightful.
pick a random image and then give you the squares for it in a random order.
In a random order? Ooh.
Almost.
Yeah.
Any programmers out there? We need an app developed, please. Please and thank you for art challenges. Okay, so there's like a little half circle here. And then there's that line, sort of, it doesn't go all the way to the edge, but it's sort of there. Yeah, so once I actually did this, it really does help train your eye, because I think that's the biggest hurdle when it comes to being an artist, is training your eye to see and not see what you think. Because like if you're drawing a portrait, you're looking at an eye, a nose, and a mouth, and like when I was drawing, you know, the first image and it was Buffy, I had no idea that there was an eye until all of a sudden I was like, that's an eye, and like you'd have to stand back and stop looking at all these tiny little shapes. But it took me a really long time to figure that out, and so I was drawing a realistic portrait and didn't even know it. But this is a really good way of getting you to take a step back and really focus on just what you see and not have your brain kind of override that, because it's really, really difficult to go, I'm not drawing an eye, I'm just drawing shapes. But this is the one project that really did kind of make that click for me, because once you figure that out, and once you get your eye to stop focusing on, you know, all those little details or all the object as a whole, you really get a chance to focus on how to make something look really, 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 really real. which is super cool. Now I'm just going to use the blending stump, and it already has some of that graphite on there because it's a little dirty. Because for my lighter areas, it's perfect. So I'm going to probably try and remember to do that. But I need this because it actually gets quite light back here, and I got too dark. Did we find any kind of an app for this?
No.
Dang it. That'd be so nice if we had that. But yeah, any programmers out there that want to help us out. Okay, so that one's, I'm gonna call that done. Oh, this has so many little details. Okay, D6, which is this. Where was that supposed to be? Which one was that? Because I'm gonna draw it in the wrong spot. That was, nope, this one, right? So if it's D6, that was E6. So I'm gonna draw my D6, I'm just gonna swap them. Because really it should be like this, but this should be over one, because it got flipped around. It's okay, we'll make it interesting. Really interesting, because this is, oh, it matches up with this one. Ha! That's great. That's kind of cool. Okay, so this is what's supposed to happen. So as you draw your image, it's supposed to start matching up with the edges of everything else that you've drawn. So like if I were to draw this and this one were, where it's supposed to be, that little triangle of darkness that I drew in there is actually the end of that, that shadow on what I'm definitely assuming is glass. So this then goes up, but it gets really light. All right, so if I just kind of follow that shape, we're gonna go there. Now, that dark shape has a light kind of rim to it, and I'm gonna have to make sure that I add that in because that's really what makes glass look like glass, is the weird little shapes that are all over this, so many different shapes, so many shapes. But having those like very specific highlights where the highlights go, and having like the edge of that get really light, those are the details that will make this look photorealistic, which is super cool when it really comes together. Okay, so almost gets thicker here, and there's a little highlight in the middle. It's not super bright, but it is lighter than the darkest tone, so I'm going to try and leave that kind of in the middle there. And then this gets darker. I can tell the difference between this because I'm drawing with the 5B and I drew this with my HB, and now I know I need to switch because the tones are just not quite matching up, which is okay because I can make this a little bit darker and I can blend it out, and then I can also erase back out a little bit as well. Just kind of make that transition go a little bit more seamless. Now, these zigzags sort of start here and go here. And I'm going to just draw this as a line because I will not have the time for that. We're just going to darken that completely. I will also have to remove that.
You have about 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh. This is where I'm like, I knew it was going to take me forever because drawing just really does take a long time. Sometimes. There's a darkness here. I'm going to just pop that in. It's not super dark, but there's like a little weird little spot there. And then this whole thing has a tone to it. Which now that I put that in, I realize this is going to have to be darker. So yeah, this, odds are I'm not going to finish this image. That is the wrong pile. But we're going to try. If you guys are interested in seeing the finished image, A3, that looks upside down, but I guess it's not. A3, so it goes there. But yeah, if you guys are interested in seeing the finished image, I can try and finish it on camera and we can upload that video for everybody. But you can also see the finished image at the link that my amazing moderators provided as well. But it's not going to be the same thing that I drew because I have a couple of squares that are completely backwards, which is kind of cool. It's a fun little interesting option that we didn't intend. But I'm going to try and block this in as quickly as possible. I'm going to say these are wine glasses though. These look like wine glasses. And it kind of blurs up that way. And then there's like a weird highlight there, which I'm going to actually erase out. It gets darker on the edge. Eraser. Now this graphite is nice and soft, so I don't think I'm actually going to need my electric eraser. Sweet, that's pure white. Oh, this one. Okay, so C8. I thought that said CB. C8. Okay, so that is definitely not right. But that's okay. That one, it starts over here and that circle goes up and around, but it doesn't actually touch the edge. And then it actually does connect where this is, which is odd. I didn't draw this in the right spot, did I? Because it's connecting oddly well, but I feel like there's supposed to be something in between like that. Okay, well.
It's because that one.
That one, That one what?
Know.
It's the, oh, I bet you there's there's like the
that.
stem. It's supposed to be attached to this. So like this is part of the stem of the goblet. I did figure it out. I'm drawing glass. I know I'm drawing glass. It's a really weird glass, but I know I'm drawing one. Okay, so again, the edge of this gets so light that it almost disappears. And then there's this weird sort of line shadow that goes down, and it kind of really does help with the form of this. So I want to include it. But I also need to get the edge of where this actual glass goes. So it kind of goes, it's a straight line, but once it gets to the edge, since it's curved, it does kind of drop down. And that's really what started me thinking that this was a glass. As well as like this right here, this crazy thing. All right, now I'm gonna just put in the whole tone and then use this to blend it out again, all the way up to the edge. Might as well connect it. And then I'm going to actually use my eraser to highlight or erase out this little highlight here, because it is a pretty sharp highlight. This is where actually I do take it back. I might need the electric eraser because that would give you a really sharp little highlight. That would be nice. I'm not worried about it right now, but erase out that back of that stem a little bit, and then we're going to move on. This is B3, so if it's B3 I have to flip it this way, which makes sense because it attached to that. Okay, so it doesn't go all the way to the corner, but it's up there, and then it just connects down. Nice and easy. Kind of just add that in, and actually it does get dark up at the top here and then right here in the corner, which makes sense because there is that dark shape, but it doesn't go much further past that. I'm gonna leave that B6. B6, this one. Okay, so this is a weird shape. Goes up and over and then kind of connects that way. So now I'm just looking at that negative space. and trying to match the negative space. So then that lighter area also does the same thing. I feel like it goes over further. About there-ish? Sounds about right. We're just gonna darken this because we are panic drawing. We're getting close to the end here. Eee. How does that connect? Is that one of the ones I drew in the wrong spot? I can't tell.
I don't remember anymore.
I don't either. I'm so confused. This is the part where you really have to just trust the process and draw what you see, because I don't know how that would connect these two squares. It doesn't make any sense in my brain. But I have to remember that something will work.
I
And
think it's right.
Did I just really poorly draw it? What is happening?
I think that if you had the square,
Above it,
yeah,
it'll make sense.
yeah.
Okay. Trust the process. Trust the process.
I feel like we say that a lot around here.
Yeah. Okay, so there's that. I'm gonna blend the edges a little bit. Just the edges. Just to kind of make that look blurry again. Okay. What, a single line? D4. Yep, just a single line. I don't think that's pure white, but we're gonna go with pure white. There's a little bit of a shadow right above it. Very subtle, but that's that one. Oh, this one's almost purely black. Like it's all dark. H7 here. I'm gonna leave that one for last. maybe I'll leave that one for later. H5. This one goes here, and it has just a little corner of something happening. Goes essentially to the corner, up and down, and then it slides, like there's like a little sliver of light here, but it's not pure white. And then all of this is really dark, which kind of makes sense because I know this is really dark, but I'm not going to mess with that. I feel like we're not going to get a whole lot of that finished. A4. Okay. This is where it starts connecting. And this is why it's also really important that you cut precise squares for your friends. Michaela did an amazing job. I very much appreciate it. Other than the little fiasco of like it's backwards, but everything is very precisely cut, and it makes sure that everything does really line up, and I can get it to really make sense in my drawing, because otherwise it would be very difficult. Like if this was a wonky square and I was drawing it in a precise square, it'd be very difficult. Sort of get that darker. There's a lot of little shapes in here, surprisingly, but I can tell you that all of it is sort of a mid-tone. And then I'm gonna just darken that little corner here, goes up, and then like a circle almost. And then that is mostly light, so I'm gonna call that done. And then, what is this, B5? Haha, we found it. Okay, that does make sense. This is a weird, what am I drawing, Michaela? I know it's glass, but what? Okay, so this is a little sliver of this glass over here. It goes up and out, just a really fine little chunk. It's dark right in the inside of that square. It's got a dark edge up here, but then it fades down to light. I'm gonna leave that there. And then this one has like a little, the top of that lid, I'm guessing is a lid, I don't know. Or at the edge of the goblet. but it's all not bright. So I'm going to lay down a mid-tone and then start darkening things. Something like that. That all just gets really blurry. Something like that, yeah. That is pure white. Love it. That is also pure white. I love that I'm getting a lot of, oh gosh. That is a very complicated square. E5. I think I could probably do one more not so complicated square before we have to officially sign off. Hey, there we go. H9. Okay, so this is gonna go here. That's in the wrong spot.
That was the first one you did.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because I was like, how is, okay. So this one, I can see a sharp edge from like here, and it goes to about here. So then I'm going to sort of sketch that in. And then I'm guessing this is a shadow edge because it's nice and blurry. And I'm going to do the same thing and kind of connect it because it goes back to right here. So then I'm going to just keep that sharp edge by darkening it. And then I'm going to darken everything. Trying not to get my pages underneath. And then start adding those subtleties. So that it gets really dark here, almost where I can't really see that edge clearly defined. But then it gets lighter on that, what looks like a shadow. And then the edge gets blurry. And the reason why I'm pretty sure this is a shadow because it gets blurry the further away from that object it is, and it gets darker the closer it is to this object, which is how a shadow, like a cast shadow, functions in general. Then it's like a sliver of a little light area, and then a dark line that kind of follows that same edge shape, but it does get thicker down here. And then kind of sort of the same thing up here. Something like that. Could be wrong. I'm gonna actually take my eraser and fix my shadow shapes. And then my blender and fix it again. And I'm gonna say this is gonna be the last one that I'm gonna be able to do before we have to sign off. Does it count as cheating if I look at the image before I officially finish this? And I just dropped that.
If you're gonna finish it, yes.
Okay, so now you all have to tell me, am I finishing this image? And are we gonna post a video of it? Because I can do a time lapse of me finishing this video, this image here, and then posting it on our either Facebook, probably our Facebook, like Jerry's Live Facebook group. If you guys are not part of that group, you should join. It is free to join. Just make sure you do answer that one security question in case you were not actually part of that already. But it is a group of about over 7,000 people that love art, are artists, everything from a hobbyist over to a professional and everything in between. It's just a group of really wonderful people over there. And we usually post things like this over there all the time as well. So that way you guys can enjoy them. But yeah, let me know if you want me to finish this officially with all the wonky pieces that went in the wrong location. And then I will do a time lapse of that. But if you guys say yes, I promise I won't look at the image. It's very difficult though, because I'm also an instant gratification. I want to know what I'm drawing. But that was our secret drawing challenge. I hope you guys enjoyed it and understand what's going on here, because there's a lot of little details, especially in those little areas, I'm pretty sure it's a goblet. Very confused. Very confused. That's okay. But if you guys do also try this challenge for yourselves, please tag us on our social media. I love seeing what you guys create. Any social media, tag us at JerrysArtarama, and Amanda will be able to find it and show me. I will love to see what you guys draw. But that was the show. And again, if you are interested in any of the supplies we used, it is JL390. If you type it in the search bar on JerrysArtarama.com, our teacher's cart will come up and you guys can check out all the supplies there. Amazing pencils and everything that you will need to complete this. Fun challenge. Hopefully not just within an hour though, but it does sound like a fun idea for our mystery art box.
It's not that cool.
It's very challenging, I'm sure. But of course, also make sure you guys join us next week because Michaela will be back on. And she's going to be doing a not your boring still life, which is going to be very cool. And I cannot wait because dinosaurs. Yes. So that was the show. I will see you guys next time. Bye!